The running back position is a very dangerous position to invest in, not just in real NFL terms, but in fantasy football. There's a lot of volatility there. Injuries can make it up and down. Dynasty fantasy football, you're looking at the long term, and with this position, not many running backs out there are there for the long term, especially when you zoom into 2023 and you project out the next couple years and you look back at what's left. There's not going to be as many running backs still kicking it around, being productive in a fantasy football sense as what you would like to admit, and then also holding that value. We're looking at a running back today that there's some questions about, and I'm seeing it on Twitter. I'm seeing it on Instagram. I'm seeing it everywhere. People are talking this running back up. Tony Pollard of the Dallas Cowboys. Buy, sell, trade, hold. We're going to talk about that today, about what you need to do. But what you need to do right now is click that subscribe button. Tap it with your finger on your phone. Click it with the mouse on your computer, because we're going to help you build your teams for your dynasty leagues. We're going to help you win your redraft leagues. We're going to help you get ready for the NFL draft and your rookie drafts and everything else. It's all here, 365 days a year, multiple videos a day, right here. Click that button. Stop missing out. And it's Tony Pollard time. Looking at the basic stats on the season, somewhat productive, but really not up to the return on investment from what we saw earlier this year, especially in redraft. Redraft's important for Dynasty because it's a viewpoint to the now. It's a viewpoint to the right now and value, to how people are seeing things from now to the end of the season, maybe a little bit longer than that even. And it matters because it lets you know what people think about these players on the quick, and then you zoom out for Dynasty and you try to project going forward. And with the running back position, it's a lot like redraft, because instead of like 1 year out, it's more like a couple. And then with the values, it's so up and down, it's so volatile from year to year, you might as well be playing redraft in theory when it comes to strategizing around the position. But when it comes to production, week 1, 22 fantasy points against the Giants, then 20 fantasy points against the Jets. I know, round up. 15 against the Cardinals, then 9, 8, 17, 6, 9. So we have a run here where the fantasy production has not been hitting. It has not been producing. Not the fantasy gamers liking. Not to what you want to put in your lineup over what the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks now. You got one hitter there and a bye week. Bye weeks matter because you're not getting fantasy points on those weeks. So when you're thinking about them right now, the volatility's in the air. The value's in the air. Looking at his production over the last couple years, 2022 was when we were on the upswing there, and we got some RB1 weeks already in 2023. We got 3 of them in one RB2 week. So we've been fantasy relevant for 4 weeks of the season. The rest of the season, RB3 or worse in production. Last year, we had 6 RB1 weeks on the season. We still have a lot of games to play, so it could change on the back 9 of the season. Maybe that can happen. Maybe. But look at the opportunity share. He's getting a 32% share of the opportunities out of the backfield on the offense. That's a good thing to see. He's still getting touches. He's still getting workload. He's getting almost 70% of the snaps. He's getting some targets, but I like him to be used a little bit more in the passing game, considering his skill set, considering what he could do in fantasy with that, especially if he gets the ball in the open field. Looking at his stats on his career, he has been somewhat productive because he's been sharing the backfield. This is his first season with the backfield to himself. Even though last year with Zeke there, he got over 1,000 yards rushing. He was more like the 1A guy last year, maybe the 1A-ish, if you want to say it like that. 719 yards the year prior. We have 474 yards right now. We might hit 1,000 yards rushing this year. We might get there. I think we will. I think we'll hit that. This season will probably lead all seasons for him in rushing attempts. In 2021, he had 130 rushing attempts and 719 yards. Versus 120 rushing attempts now and 474 yards. That's going to stick in the mind of fantasy gamers. And then we look at the receiving production. We have 35 targets to his name, 46 in 2021, 55 in 2022. So we're on baseline to what we should expect him to get. Yards after contact per attempt has dipped a little bit to 2.62 this season versus 3.76 last year, 3.57 the year prior. The missed tackles forced, that's not looking good. We got 8 on the year, so we're projecting out to like 20 on the season right now if we prorate that out, which is on the low considering we're getting a lot of rushing attempts. That's something to look at here when we're projecting forward. And then also looking at the game log here for Tony Pollard. 70, 72, 122, 47, 29, 30, 53, 51. When it comes to rushing yards per game, targets per game, 3, 8, 3, 3, 5, 7, 1, 5. So he has the opportunity to give you a boom week in targets, opportunities in the passing game, but also some low ones as well. And when it comes to receiving production in general, we have an 80-yard week, a 35, and a 37. And the rest you don't really want to remember. So again, it's been up and down this season, which is okay for fantasy football on the short term, but projecting out for the long term, you got some questions coming up. And just looking at the headlines here from RotoWorld. RotoWorld has really went downhill over the years. RotoWorld used to be the place to go for news blurbs, but I just want to look at some headlines here just to see what mainstream was saying. Another week, another down game. Cowboys RB Tony Pollard held in check. Pollard bottled up on the ground. Pollard's shoulder upgrade to full on Friday. So again, RotoWorld not giving us anything for this. The news headlines aren't looking good. The news headlines aren't helping us out here. Not looking good. And that's what the mainstream sees. And the mainstream kind of predicts the value. But this is what I'm worried about. This is what I'm worried about here for Dynasty Fantasy Football in the long term. We're going to be a free agent next year. And maybe we get a one-year deal. Maybe we get extended out a little bit. It ain't going to be too long. It ain't going to be too long of an extension because he's going to be 27 next year. You don't sign old running backs. And I think the Cowboys learned that with the Ezekiel Elliott contract. I'm pretty sure they did. So imagine they're going to be making some moves. I imagine he might be on the tag. I imagine it might be a 1 to 2 year deal. I imagine if he is, it's on the short term. But we're going to see some volatility in the dynasty value here on the price tag, on the trade market, because this is going to start being put on notice right now, and people are going to start looking at that he's 27, that this year isn't going as grand as what people hoped, because people are expecting top 5 RB production out of him in August. That's not happening. We got 3 RB1 weeks to his name already on the season. We got 9 weeks down on the season, and we got a little bit more to go. So that being said, looking at his ADP over time, October ADP has him in the top 20 range over at DLF, and he has been climbing because he has been seeing touches. He has upside. He's on the Cowboys. He's Tony Pollard. But looking at his ranks here in ADP, he's up there high. But that was October. And this comes out early October, like a week or two in. Tony Pollard, RB4 then. RB4. So we're going to have to wait until November ADP comes out. That's going to change because Jahmyr Gibbs went up. Kenneth Walker has been dealing with that calf issue, but he's not going anywhere. Jonathan Taylor's been back and been looking good. Travis Etienne, he was balling before that. He should have been higher. That being said, look at him among the rest of the players, and there's other guys you'd rather have below him on that list, especially at the wide receiver position where you can project out more easily in future years. That being said, look at this list. Who would you rather have than Tony Pollard? And even below that, but now we go to KeepTradeCut.com, another dynasty site where you can get value on these players. And here they got a dip from October to now. This is more in the recent. This is more in the now. And a lot of people don't like the value Keep Trade Cut. And a lot of people don't want to value this calculator, this calculator, this calculator. Let's mash them all together. Look at all of them. And we have an indicator here. We're looking at the stats. We're looking at what we're seeing now. We're projecting out to his age. We're projecting out to the contract. We're looking at Keep Trade Cut here. And does it make sense? It kind of does. It kind of does. Last 3 weeks, we didn't get anything out of him. The last 3 weeks, he went downhill a little bit. That gives you an indication that his stock is volatile. And you do not want a running back at age 27 who's got some volatile stock, because it's going to say, hey, anything bad that happens, we're going to tank you. We're going to tank you because we're playing with this resistance line. We want to see where we want to value him. And if something negative happens, the sky is going to fall. When the sky falls, that's a buying opportunity if you like him. But now that he's priced high in ADP, keep trade cut, he's still up there a bit. You still might be able to get something back here. Looking at the adjacent running backs, RB13, Alvin Kamara, Javonte Williams, Isaiah Pacheco, DeAndre Swift, the wide receivers and other players, Will Levis, Devontae Adams, Alvin Kamara, DeAndre Swift. So anything really in that value there, or a little bit lower, or a stack of players you may want to look at. You may want to think about there. But he's at RB13. Look at the value there in ADP at DOF, RB4, and now he's RB13. And that has dropped a good bit in just a few weeks because people are seeing he's 27 years old. They're seeing the future. Is he a hold right now? Is he a hold right now? Is he a hold for you? Really depends on what happens on the trade market for you. What's going on there for you? Looking at recent trades here, trades that have just happened in November, just a few days ago. Tony Pollard, Juwan Jennings, Devontae Wicks, and a second. That's just a handful there. It seems like a good buy unless you're trying to get out to get that second round pick for liquidation standpoint. Really depends on where you're at in your league. If you're there to win your league, then that might be a good trade for you. Or if you're out of it, middle of the road, then you may want that second round pick. But that's also in 2024 coming up. I really like the 2024 class in Superflex. The second round picks there are going to be pretty decent because we're looking at maybe 5 quarterbacks going in the first round. That's going to infuse value in the first round. We also have a stacked wide receiver class. So the top end of that second round is going to look like the back end of a first round in many draft classes. Devin Achane, Kyle Pitts. And on the other end, Pollard, Hunt, Evan Ingram, Wan'Dale Robinson, a second and another second. I don't know what happened there. I'm taking Devin Achane in that value all day because he's hurt right now. He's been out. And he is the love god of Dynasty right now. And you got Kyle Pitts that can hold value too. Anything happens good with Atlanta, he's going to skyrocket in value. Chase Claypool just added in there. So you know what? I'm going to take that side, the Devin Achane side, all day long. Kareem Hunt, no value in Dynasty. Evan Ingram, you got some decent tight end value. Wan'Dale Robinson, you can scratch that at the wide receiver position any way you like it. I do like the second round picks. Depends if it's super flex or not. Also depends on where it's going to be at. But they're also second round picks. The odds have decreased immensely with that. But I do like the capital coming back with that. But I still like Devin Achane. If I'm going to pay to get Devin Achane, that's probably a good way to pay for that. Pollard, Prescott, Howe, Kamara, and a second. Looks like we're flopping old running backs, but you got a second there coming back. I think it's pretty even. Let me know in the comments who you like there. And then we also got PJ Walker because they need a starter. Tony Pollard's there. Jerry Jeudy. A huge trade here. Adam Thielen, Mostert, Dobbs. I want the Pollard side of that deal, but he's really being the anchor there. I like this one on the bottom. Pollard, Ridley in a second. That's the kind of deals I want to try to get done. And that was on November 3rd. So it's very recent. Something like that. A second and a player in that Ridley range. A second and a prospect that you kind of like that has some value. A second in this. A second in that. A second and something else out in the future. Tony Pollard for that. If you're looking to wheel and deal. If you kick the tires and that comes back at you. I'm okay with that. But the thing is, what's your move? What are you doing? Right now, for a lot of people, he looks like a hold. Right now, he's a running back, too. Running backs are running backs. They get hurt often. They're volatile. And if you can move on from one that's on a volatile standpoint, not a downswing or upswing, I say a volatile standpoint, then you just got to kick the tires, see what comes back at you. That's my main thing right now. Kick the tires, see what comes back at you. If you can do it, you can do it. If not, then you know what? You hold for a little bit. But the thing is, with a running back like this, that you know is getting older, you know the value is going to be dropping soon, and maybe you get another year if you're lucky, maybe 2 years if you're lucky, then you know what? Holding lucked out for you. But holding's a gamble. Trading away, it feels like a gamble. But you know what? If you get something back of liquidity, that could help you win back at the running back position for a certain extent and get you some other pieces. But with Tony Pollard, the main thing I would do definitely is be kicking the tires right now. See what comes back at me. I'm not expecting my league mates to be going over the moon with him. So I have to be creative here. But Tony Pollard is a guy you need to question. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I want to hear about it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next